Alright, you guys, so today I'm just going to wing this Bible study. I didn't write it down, but I've been reading over it, and so yeah, I'm gonna start going into it. This is gonna be talking about facing your giants, when people think you're too little for your giant. Talking about 1 Samuel 17, verses 17 through 18 and 26 through 38, and then Numbers 13, 30 through 33. So yeah, I hope you guys read those and stay tuned. Alright, God bless. Alright, so when you start looking at 1 Samuel 17 through, I'm gonna say 18. So you have David. Now, David was the youngest out of all his brothers, but he was chosen. He was, he was little, he was small, but he was chosen by God for a purpose. And then it says that Jesse, what I've known about Jesse is Jesse had a very hard time with David. Their relationship was very strained. And a lot of the time, we can have these strained relationships in our families. But what I've learned is sometimes that in these cases it can bring us closer to God, because the Bible says, when your mother and father forsake you, that the Lord will take you up. And so that's what I believe that God did with David, because Jesse and his relationship was very strained. But here it is, and Jesse goes tells, they were at the camp, going to fight Goliath, but no one would go fight Goliath. And so Jesse told David to go bring up his brothers some dried grain up to the camp. Now, in a lesson I did before, camps are temporary places. They're battles that are just temporary. They won't be there long. So this battle that you're going through, it won't be there long. It's a temporary battle. It's something that's very quick and easy to face if you allow it to be easy. If you allow things to go smoothly. But these people, it shows that the Israelites weren't really allowing it to go easy, because the only reason, if you're in a camp place in your life, that the battle will go easy is if someone will step up in their faith so that the battle will go easy against the giant. But no one in Israel wanted to fight the giant. They were too afraid. But someone has to do it. And so I'm going to post up the first few questions, and then we're going to carry on. All right. Is there a battle in your life that no one seems to want to fight? Does it seem like everyone has left you behind because they think you're incapable in fighting this battle? Okay, you guys, so when you look at the next few verses in 1 Samuel 17, it says in verse 26, and then David spoke to the men and stood by them, saying, "What shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, and he should defy the armies of the living God?" And the people answered him in this manner, saying, "So shall it be done for the man who kills him." Now, when you look at this, David was not equipped for the battle when he got there. From the outside appearance, he was not equipped. And see, that's what gets everyone wrong. But see, it doesn't matter if you looked equipped for the battle, because God knows if you are equipped or not for the battle. So what everybody else sees doesn't matter. But it says, "What shall be done for the man who kills the Philistine?" See, what we need to do is, we see this battle, we need what shall be done for the man who kills the Philistine. Ask about the situation. You know, he was trying to get information of what is going to happen after the fact that he takes away this reproach from Israel. When you think about the reproach, here is a generation that's been in and out of bondage, and you know, God, if that could be like our lives with our families, you know, God could want to use you to take a generation of people out of bondage, away from a battle that they've been struggling with for so long. You could be the youngest person in your family who could change a situation in your family that's been taking over for years. You think about things like alcoholism. You could break a generational curse and not partaking in situations. You could face this giant, kill it off so it doesn't have to keep on going down the line, generation after generation. No more alcoholism for your family, but let it be taken away from your family. And so he asked, what shall happen? And from the previous lesson, basically what will happen for the man who kills him is that the giant will serve them. You know, once you face your giant and you conquer and defeat your giant will serve you. You will now be able to sit there and say, I used to struggle with this, but now I have conquered it. I have defeated it. Or you even, you know, like things like alcoholism, you could decide, no, I don't want to do that because back there in previous generations, you know, whatever. So you face that giant. So therefore, you've conquered the battle. The battle is now won, and hopefully it will not be passed on from generation to generation, leaving a generation in bondage. You know, it's a beautiful thing. So I'm gonna post up the next few questions, you know, and just think about it. You could have your giant serving you. You know, you gotta walk. You gotta crawl before you walk, and then once you start walking, you may fall a few times, but you just get back up, and then, you know, you don't think about it anymore. Why? Because you're so used to walking, it's not even a thought. You know, that could be just like in our battles. We get so used to what we're doing, we no longer think about what it is that we're trying to fight, because we've conquered it, and it's no longer we're no longer serving our giant, but our giant is serving us. So here we go. Is there a battle in your life that is causing or hindering your family, such as a generational curse or a battle that keeps your family from moving forward as a whole? Okay, guys. So when you look at verses 28, I'm going to say through 30, you see David's older brother. He starts speaking to David in such a rude way. He gets angry and like it says, he talks about how he gets angry and aroused, and he says, why did you come down here? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your pride and your insolence of your heart, for you have come down here to see the battle. Now, what gets me is when people who are older than you, and have been on this earth longer than you, they are up against this battle too. You know, this is the same battle that they're fighting. Everybody needs to fight Goliath. And I know his older brother sees something in him that David has, you know, but we all know when you're younger and you can conquer something better than someone who's older than you, of course they're going to get mad. Why? Because they think they have all the experience in the world, because they've been on earth longer than you have, and they don't want to be showed off. They don't want it to seem like you have it better than them, that you can do it right. Like, they've been here. You know, his brother's been sitting at the battle. His brother's been sitting there. But that's all his brother's doing, is just sitting there. He's not facing the giant. He's not going into battle. He doesn't have what it takes, obviously, because the battle would have already been won. And so he got mad and angry. And that's what people can do. When they won't face the giant in their life, they'll get mad at you because you're facing your giant instead of letting your giant serve you. And so he got mad because he knew that, if David could defeat his giant, he'd be showed off. So, of course, he would do anything to hinder him from, facing this giant. And so he asked him, and with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? Now, we know that, wilderness times are times where you're just stuck. And so, yeah, sometimes it takes us leaving a few other people to the side, the sheep, a few other people to the side to wander in the wilderness. People who are in the wilderness are stuck. They're going in the same place, round and round and round. They're not really going anywhere at the moment. But though you may leave them there in the wilderness for a moment, it's okay, because it's only for a moment. It's only for a moment. I know they're stuck, and I know that we want to help people, but here's this whole generation that is it's all Israel, and they're stuck, and they cannot fight this battle. When you think about, your family, and, it talks about in the Bible, how, excuse me, I just had a brain fart. It talks about in the Bible how, we should, help our family. Like, if your family is not right at home, then how can you go out and, help others? So, of course, David came. But, it says, he said, your pride, maybe it wasn't David's pride. Maybe it was his own pride and his own heart, because he didn't want David to come down here, because no one wants anyone who's younger than them, who seems like they have less experience than them, that no one really counts on being anything one day, but just as long as they stay in their place, they're fine. But as soon as they step out their place and it looks like they're threatening to you, then people want to better themselves and do something to make, it's like a competition kind of thing. So it's kind of like he wanted David to stay in your place, and that's how people can be. When they see you bettering yourself, they want to better themselves, because it's like a competition. Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you, but it's not even about that, like, if his brother wanted to fight the giant, he should have fought it a long time ago, instead of sitting there, and had the faith to go up and face this giant, whatever the issue and struggle in his life was, but, they could have been fighting the same giant, like I said, you have generational curses that go on for years and years and years, and, it's like all of a sudden someone else wants to face the giant now that you're facing the giant, because they get mad because, why are you doing this? It's going to make me look bad because I can't do it. And, no one wants to look bad. And so, and then it says, and David said, what have I done now? All David did was come to see and face it, come to see about the giant. And he got, what did David do? All he did was, he was following his father's instructions, this could be a situation where God, placed you in this situation, in this battle, because he knew that you could fight it. You got instructions from God to come fight it, because the other person or people in your lives won't fight it. And he knows that you have it in you to fight the battle, And he said, is there not a cause? Then he turned from him towards another and said the same thing. And these people answered him as the first ones did. So he realized, once he fought this giant would now, would now serve him. These people would now serve him. And that's good, because we don't want to be in a situation like, if if your family wants to fight the giant, if other people want to fight the giant, then they can go ahead and fight the giant. But if nobody sits there and fights the giant, when will it ever be fought? Because it didn't look like his brother was doing anything. It didn't look like other people in their lives were doing anything. It's time to face the giant. So I'm going to post up the next few questions, and then we'll carry on. All right. Are other people threatened because you're trying to face a giant in your life that they didn't want to face themselves? This includes your family. Words of encouragement. Whatever you do, do not cave in, because the negative words thrown around from those who are close to you. Alright, guys, so, excuse me. We're going to be looking at verses 31 through 37 of 1 Samuel 17. Now, when you look at these scriptures, basically the word got to Saul. Now, Saul was the king, and basically Saul sent for him because he heard the news that someone wanted to go face this giant. And David said to Saul, "Let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine." And Saul said to David, "You are not able to go against the Philistine to fight him, for you are a youth and a man of war, and he is a man of war from his youth." Now, it's crazy because even the king, the king even thought that he could not defeat Goliath because he was young, he was of his youth, and Goliath was a man of war from his youth. Now, like I said, this could be a generational curse, a giant that's been affecting people for a long time. It said that Goliath was a man of war from his youth. This battle had not just been going on. People have not been going against this Goliath. Just when you got to the world. No, this was a giant, a battle that had been being, going up against time after time after time since his youth. He's been a man of war from his youth. But that didn't matter. But David said to Saul, "Your servant used to keep his father's sheep." Now, whatever giant you're going up against, God has already equipped you to face this giant from your youth. I mean, David's young, but that doesn't matter. Whatever it is that you're facing, God has already equipped in you to go against it. It said right here, your servant used to keep his father's sheep. God already put people in your lives, and things in your lives, battles in your lives to help you conquer this journey, to get you as strong as you are for this journey, to get your faith to grow as much as it has on this journey. It says, "And when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, I went out after it and I struck it." We think about situations in our lives, and we've fallen, and and things have been taken away from us, but we still went after it, when things went bad, when things went wrong, and we went after it and we struck it, and we hit gold, and we went after it and we conquered and destroyed it. And it says, "And delivered the lamb from its mouth." And that's what we do. Things in our lives don't go, get taken away from us, and then we go to rescue it back from what has taken it away from us. So God has already equipped everything in us. We have the strength. He's been preparing us for years and years and years. He always puts us in a place when we're younger. We don't go to these places just by accident. Nothing happens just on accident. We don't go through these battles just by accident. God already equips us to fight these giants, to fight these battles, and said, "And when it arose against me, I caught it by the beard and I struck it and killed it." And that's what we do. He had no fear. He struck, the enemy. He struck whatever was coming against him, and and he killed it. We defeat our battles. You can't look past your life. If you're watching this video, you have made it to watch this video for a reason. Things could have killed you along the way. Anything could have happened. You could not be here watching this video, but you're watching this video. That means that God has allowed you to stay. That means you have fought so hard just to get to this place right here and right now. And there is nothing that can stop you from fighting this giant. You didn't just get here for no reason. You're here for a reason. You're here for a purpose. And you're going to fight this giant and fight this battle. And just look at all the things that God has brought you through to be able to prepare you to go against what you're about to go against. It says, your servant has killed both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be one of them. See? Right there, I love that. It says, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be one of them. He never once doubted. He said, I will fight this giant, and I will defeat this giant. That's it. He says, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. Moreover, David said, Lord, who delivered me from the paws of the lion and the paws of the bear, he will deliver me from the hands of the Philistines. Look over your life right now and all the things that God has let you fight and get over. If he'll let you defeat everything that you have defeated since then, why won't he allow you to help you defeat these things right here, right now in your life? Don't be scared like everybody else. See, the thing is no one else had the faith enough to believe God. But because what God has brought you out of, you know that you can face this giant. Yeah, see, what they did is they discredited God. That's why it didn't matter that he was young and that he was a youth, and it didn't matter what he looked like. What mattered is that he knew God could do it. See, everybody else there had discredited God. Here is the Israelites. They're the children of Israel. God had brought them out of Egypt, out of bondage, out of so much. But you know what? People, once they're free and once they, get to a point where, oh, okay, yeah, I'm no longer in bondage. Yeah, I've conquered this and yeah, I've conquered that. They forget where God has brought them out of, and they give up and they get scared and they won't fight the battle. But no, not David. Even so young, David knew that he could fight this battle because he knew. And he looked back. He said, the Lord who delivered. Past tense. He delivered me from the paws of the lion and from the paws of the bear. He knew that God would still deliver him from the hands of this giant that he was facing. So whatever giant you're facing, look over your life and see all the things that God has delivered you from and allowed you to conquer, and get ready to prepare to face this giant, despite of how little you look, or when other people don't think you can fight the giant. And then Saul said to David, go and the Lord be with you. Just because of his confidence in what he could do, Saul said, go ahead. But it doesn't just end there, which is heartbreaking. But I'm going to pose with the next few questions and then we'll continue on, all right? God bless. What are things in your life in which you have conquered to help prepare you for this battle? All right, now, so when you look at verses 38 through 39 of 1 Samuel 17, it says, so Saul clothed David with his armor, and he put a bronze helmet on his head, and he clothed him with a coat of mail. And David fastened his sword to his armor, and he tried to walk, for he had not tested them. And David said to Saul, I cannot walk in these, for I have not tested them. So David took them off. Now, this is the thing. When you go to face your giant, and this is what had disappointed me, because, yeah, Saul said, go ahead, go face the giant. But the thing is he was trying to direct him in a way to face the giant in a way that he himself couldn't face the giant. I mean, if Saul could have faced the giant would have already been dead. So what people will try to do to you is they'll try to make you put on things that they would do to face this giant, or have you look just like them in order to face the giant. But this giant cannot be faced by you doing exactly what they doing, because obviously they failed. They failed at what they were doing. Why? Because they did not face the giant the way that it needed to correctly be faced. And that's why God is counting on you, because you can't, the way he's having you face your giant does not look normal to everybody else. Yeah, you look small. Yeah, you look weak, but that does not matter. That does not matter. You may look like, kind of like Peter when he was walking on water, with his faith. You're in an unusual situation. Walking on water looks crazy, but it doesn't matter. Why? You have to face this giant and take that leap of faith, that step of faith, in a way that no one ever has, because they think that you should defeat this giant the way they want you to defeat the giant. It's not about how they want you to defeat the giant. It's how God would have you defeat the giant. When David said that he defeated those lions and the bears, he didn't defeat them with armor on. He defeated them the way that God had him defeat them, the way that God had trained him to defeat them. It wasn't how others wanted them to defeat them. It was how God would have him defeat the giant. And so we can't look like others or do the same thing as others would do trying to face this giant. We have to do them the way God equipped us to. Because, like I said, when we look back over our lives and our past, others weren't there, helping us defeat those giants. It was God helping us there all along. And the way we defeated those giants, we're not the way other people wanted to defeat them. Trust me, I've seen many times in my day where I've gotten conquered over things, not by what other people did to help me, but what God had. Like for me, sometimes it's really hard to trust people because, when I was out in the world, so many people, like I was listening to so many people direct me that I literally drove myself crazy, and I was being pulled every which way, to a point where God's been trying to deliver me from listening to people and, having people tell me where I need to be instead of being where God would need me to be. And that's what we can do sometimes. We get pulled in so many directions by so many people's opinions when God has already trained us and equipped us to fight this battle the way that he would want us to fight this battle, because he knows what it is that we have in us that he's trained us for all these years, and so people want you to look just like them. So, maybe Saul could have got the credit out of David. Oh yeah, well I gave him my armor, and I gave him, it could be like people, well, I gave him, the instructions of how to do it, and I told him how to do this, and I told him how to do that. Well, God's not getting the glory out of that. No, here is David. He came here and said he was going to go up against this giant with God, in God's name. God's getting the glory out of this situation, and then here's Saul. Oh, I'm king, and and you can use my armor to fight the battle. So that when it all came down to it, Saul could probably be like, oh well, I gave him my armor, and I gave him my opinions, and I told him what to do to conquer the giant, and he conquered it because of me. No, he's gonna conquer this giant because of God. And so David said, I cannot walk in these, for I have not tested them. So David took them off. He took them off. No point blank period. I'm not going to follow the instructions of others the way it is to face this giant. I'm going to face it the way God would want me to face this giant. Why? Because I have not tested those ways. And if those ways have been tested and they failed, why would I go out and do something that obviously is going to fail? Because obviously no one's faced the giant, because they're still standing there. They're still stuck in the same situation that they've been stuck in. Why? Because they won't go out and face the giant. Because if it was that armor that would get them to the next place in their life, then what about God? We look at situation in our lives. Like I know I have a situation in my life where people will say, well, they look at me following Jesus. Oh, you're not getting anywhere. We don't see you getting anywhere. But behind the scenes, they don't see how God's working in my life. You feel what I'm saying? They don't see how the giants are being faced. They don't see, I see what's going on. I see what's going on. And, they couldn't do it. Their faith is not where my faith is. And it's hard sometimes, It can be really hard sometimes because people just don't understand what you've seen and what you've conquered and what you've been through. And they don't see what God has taken you through. And sometimes your faith can be so much different than other people because they haven't walked the same walk as you have. And that's exactly what's going on right here. And so, yeah, I'm going to put up the next questions and then we'll continue on, alright? God bless. Are others trying to tell you how to face this giant their way, but haven't even defeated it themselves? Alright, you guys, so here is Numbers 13:30 through 33. And it says, And then Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, Let us go up at once and take possession, for we are well able to overcome it. But the men who had gone up with him said, We are not able to go against the people, for they are stronger than we. And they gave the children of Israel bad report in the land which they had spied out, saying, The land through which we have gone as spies is a land of devourous inhabitants, and all the people whom we saw in it are men of great stature. There we saw the giants. The descendants of Anak came from the giants, and we were like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so were we in their sight. When you look at this, now Caleb saw that they could defeat this giant. But the people said because they were so small, and that these giants were of great stature, men of great stature, that they were the descendants of Anak, that they came from giants, and that they seemed like grasshoppers in their own sight. See, they didn't even seem like grasshoppers. They felt like they were grasshoppers. They felt that they were too small to face these giants. See, but Caleb had the faith. He saw greater of what they were able to do. Caleb was ready. He said, Let us go up against at once and take possession, for we are well able to overcome it. We are well able to overcome this giant. No matter how small we may seem, it does not matter how great or how big this giant is or these giants are. It does not matter. If you feel like grasshoppers in your own sight, you will not be able to defeat it. All the Israelites, all the Israelites would not go up against Goliath because they felt that they were too small. In both these circumstances, they felt that they were too small. It does not matter how small people may think you are in facing this battle and facing this giant that you're going through in your life. That does not matter. What matters is that you know that you can overcome it. Caleb knew because he had God. David knew because he had God. But people who have no faith, when God already said they can defeat it, when God already took them through so much in their life to show them that they can overcome it, but they doubt God, no, they can overcome it. They can get through it. Why? Because it doesn't matter how big the giant is. Because God is bigger than the giant. And that's what made Caleb and David great leaders. And that's what's going to make you a great leader. If you believe that no matter how big your giant is, you can overcome it. Despite other people having got over the giant. Despite all that other stuff. That does not matter. It doesn't matter. But what matters is if you face it. And you will overcome. Why? will you overcome? Because you're going to look back over your life and see everything that God has done for you in your life. And you're going to realize that if you don't do it, it's going to affect people down the road. Because once you don't conquer something, it affects others after you. Because if David never had the guts to face Goliath, what would have happened? Someone with a lack of faith would have gone against this giant and failed. And the giant would have been serving them for generations, and they would have been serving their giant for generations and generations and generations to come. They would have been in bondage for a long time. It's time to whatever situation in your life that's been affecting those around you for years and years and years and years and years, it's time for that to be broken. Whatever generational curse you're going through, whatever problem that others won't fight that you have equipped to fight in you, you need to fight it. Because God is bigger than this. So just look over your life and see all the things that God has done for you in those times. And realize that this battle in your life is not hard. It's not a hard one to fight. You know why? Because God's going to be there with you this whole time. God was with the Israelites when he brought them out of Egypt. You know, he was with them. He brought them out of bondage. Why wouldn't, they be able, he said they could possess the land. Why wouldn't they be able to possess the land? All they had to do is go there and God would help them fight their battles. Look at David. David said he'd go. I'll be doing a lesson next on preparing for the battle. And yeah, I love you guys, and get ready to face your giant, because if you don't do it, no one else is. Alright, peace. Yeah, I'm gonna post up the next few questions as well. Alright, guys, bye. Do you understand that God is bigger than your giant? What will it take for you to realize that you can win this battle? Alright, you guys, well, thank you so much for tuning into this lesson, and tune in for another lesson. Next time we'll be talking about preparing for your battle and then facing your giant. Alright, I love you guys. Peace.